We really have to define what we mean, and then make sure that we're congruent, because if you're talking about it in one capacity at the academic level and then you send people out to practice and they hit the wall because it isn't happening there, then you lose all the advantage that you had of trying to train people up to be able to work collaboratively when they find that in the real world that it really doesn't follow through. So it really is inculcating a culture within healthcare, I think.
Pilot project about 3 years back where we actually asked 6 clinical areas to come together, and we formally tried to put workshops together to teach them how to work with teams. And pretty much they all failed, and it was because the physicians wouldn't come to the table in a consistent way. If we had one physician champion, great, but it wasn't enough. That physician would go away and the next physician would come in and destroy everything that the team had tried to build together in terms of rules of engagement, what we were trying to accomplish, how we were going to communicate with one another, how we were going to show mutual respect, and how as physicians we weren't necessarily the king of the team, and we needed to understand what our role was. And so that's why I was actually fascinated by the workshop, because I think that those attitudes are really counterproductive to ultimate safety of patient care. And so I go back to, do we even acknowledge that we're part of the team? And I think for a lot of physicians the answer is no.
People are very territorial about their background and their expertise, and regardless of how much you try to put people in parallel together, it doesn't mean you're working well together.
Well, you think we're being patient-centered, but we're being paternalistic. So, and I see that time and time again where I know best, whether I'm the physician, the nurse, or whoever in the room.
The client's needs and goals were very different from what the goals that the team had identified. Yeah, getting their blood sugars checked or whatever was an issue, but it was more about, can I get out to church? Can I get out to the bingo? Can I do some of these things, which was much more important for people versus just the healthcare goal. So for the individuals who participated, it was a real eye-opener to, wow, all these years we've been practicing in a way that really we may not have been meeting our clients' needs as best as we can. We should have been asking them what their goals are, what their needs are, and really allowing them to lead that planning.
And you try to educate people on lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the big issues now, particularly with people in low socioeconomic status, they can't access, fitness centers, and perhaps they also can't access fresh fruit and vegetables. So here you're providing them with education, but they don't have the resources to follow through. So you're putting them in a bit of a position where they may set a goal, but because of financial reasons, they can't attain it. So do you reach out into the community in terms of, okay, well, here are all the food security places that you might be able to access?
If you give them that, even the thread of empowerment, of realizing that their needs will be met, their voice will be heard. Yes, they have value. And especially in a system where, you think about this is supposed to be patient-centered, but there are probably a lot of patients who don't even have the concept of their needs are the reason for this whole system existing.
There are tons of mixed messages because there's tons of different sets of information out there, and I think, and that information may change from week to week, month to month, depending on what the new thing coming down is or the experience of that patient. And I think it's also up to us as patients or as consumers, whatever we call ourselves, is to check out some of those mixed messages, so that, what did you mean by that? Because Dr. So-and-so mentioned this yesterday, so I want to clarify. So it's being that patient representative or advocate where you sometimes may not be able to be because you're in a place of despair or whatever. So how can you help patients and families to clarify some of those mixed messages, and who's going to do that?
The case manager kind of goes in as the authority power person. I read your chart, I've figured out this is what you need. And asks a few questions, cursory questions, which, yes, no, I can do this or I can't do this. And of course, we had, again, a standardized patient that came in, and of course, very resistive, not happy about this at all. And then we did a flip. Same amount of time, we timed both. And she said, okay, you're ready to go home. This is what you've had done. What is it that you're hoping to get from community care as you go home? Same amount of time, got a care plan where you've got total engagement of the client. Took no more time because she had to fight the client so much in the first time round and trying to convince the client that it took the same amount of time.
Teddy Kennedy when he wrote about healthcare. He said there was this guy who had a respiratory problem, and they sent him home, and they told him that all he needed was a humidifier. And if he had a humidifier, then everything would be okay. But he couldn't buy a humidifier. So he kept on popping back into the emergency room, right, over and over and over again, because he didn't have the humidifier. And the humidifier, I think, cost $20, right? And there was no way for him to get the $20 for the humidifier.
My dad recently had an episode where he was in a large acute care hospital, and in a matter of one morning, by the time I got there at lunchtime, he had 3 people visit him telling him 3 different things about his discharge. Not going home next week or the end of the week, going home in about a couple of hours, can someone get you? From 3 different areas, and when I go out and talk to the team and said, you know, could we clarify that? They all looked at me and like, well, you know, they didn't talk to us and they didn't talk to you.
Exactly.
Can you imagine how that looks to a patient or a family who's trusting you with their lives to do major surgeries and incredible things to you, but they can't talk to each other in the station about a time and appointment and dates and stuff. And so you wonder why people don't have faith, and we get lots of patient complaints, and there's that stress dealing with patients and family is because we do look nuts, or we don't rise to the expectations of the patients because their expectations might be unrealistic, and our expectations is what we know, but nobody ever tells, you know, we never bring them in alignment because we never share them.